Like Space Planner, the Spaces macro allows you to define spaces, to create and maintain labels for those spaces, and to report on spaces. We'll start this video by looking at some of the settings. The label settings allow you to specify labels as up to 5 lines of text. The data in each line is represented by tags, which are the text in curly braces here. You can type the tags in manually, or you can use the buttons on the left side to insert them. Alternatively, the label can be defined using a symbol. I've already created a symbol which is shown at the bottom left of the screen here. So I can click the from symbol radio button and choose that symbol which I'm going to use. The report layout is specified using the same tags to define the data in each type of line. Up to 10 report columns can be specified, and different text format attributes can be assigned to each type of line. I'm just going to make some fairly arbitrary changes to the text formats. The report can be created on the currently active layer, or you can specify a layer. Additionally, you can choose to draw grid lines between the rows and columns. The Units tab on the Settings form allows you to specify the units for each type of measurement. Different units can be specified for labels, reports, and exported values. And it is also possible to specify different units for different types of areas. I'm going to change the main area setting to use a different number of decimal places for labels and reports. I'll save my changes now. I'll look at some of the settings on other tabs later in this video. The simplest way to define a space is simply to drag out a rectangle. Once I've dragged it out, a form is displayed with several fields, but I'm just going to key the space name and press enter. For non-rectangular spaces, I can use the polyline input option. When the space properties form is displayed this time, I'm not only going to key in the space name, I'm also going to select to use solid fill and select a fill color. The 3-point rectangle input method is used to create a rectangle or parallelogram space. Once the second point is selected, the snap grid angle is set to the angle of the first line, making it easy to create rectangles that are not parallel to the axis. I'm selecting a different fill color for this space, and I'm also specifying to show an outline around the fill. In addition, I'm keying in a category name. If I go to the Categories tab of the Settings form, I can see that the category name I just entered has been created with a default solid fill color of light blue. Whilst I'm on this form, I'll create a new category. I'm not only going to specify a different fill color for this category, but I'm also going to specify that it not use the Z height that is in effect when spaces are created, but instead uses a default settling height of 17 feet. I'm going to create another rectangle space, and this time on the Space Properties form, I'm going to key a new number to start a new sequence, and I'm also going to select the category that we just created. Once the category is selected, the fill color and ceiling height are automatically set to their category values. Now, if you were to use the blocked out plan to create walls centered on the edges of the spaces, as I've done here with the red line, the spaces inside the wall lines are actually slightly smaller than the dimensions calculated by the macro. This can be avoided by changing some settings on the Wall Options tab of the Settings form to tell the macro that we're defining spaces by the wall center. If I now create another space the same size as tall space 1, you can see that the dimensions and area now reflect the reduction caused by the wall thickness. I'll now look at the reporting functionality in the macro To start with, let's take a look at the summary report. I won't look at the layer tabs because I've created all my spaces on the same layer, but I can show you how it reports by category, as you can see here. I'll copy the tall spaces report to clipboard before I exit, and then temporarily paste that into the drawing so that you can see the report. I'm selecting active layer to create a detailed report. Once I click that, the appropriate spaces are highlighted. When I click create report, the report options form displays. Report name is mandatory, but I can leave it as the default. Report title is optional, and I'm typing a value in there, and I'm selecting by category for the subtotaling before I press the create report button. The report is placed on the screen using the cursor, and once I click, the report is created in that location. I now decide that I'd like to create a new field that can be included on both reports and labels. So I go to the User Defined Fields tab of the settings and select to create a new field. I enter a suitable description and a unique tag of up to 6 characters. I'm choosing an integer format for this field, and I'm giving it a default value of 1. I can now go to the Macros Edit menu, enable Details from that menu, and select my second space. The details show the default occupancy value of 1, but I can change that to another value such as 5. Whilst editing the properties, I also check the Show Outline box, and on acceptance of the input, I can see that my second space now has an outline around the fill. I now wish to add a column to the reports for the occupancy field that we've created. So, in the Reports page 1 settings, I can insert a column by going to the column number, clicking, and in the column menu, I select Insert. I type an appropriate column heading and use a new tag, which now appears at the bottom of the tag list on the left-hand side, to insert data into the remaining rows. Whilst I have the settings form open, I decide that I no longer wish to see fractional inches in the dimensions or perimeter columns of the report. To achieve this, I go to the Units tab and change the dimensions setting for reports to feet and inches rounded. If I select Create Report with no selection active, it will enable me to replace an existing report. On selecting that, the report is created with the new format. As you see, we now have an occupancy column, and we no longer have fractional inches in the dimensions or perimeter columns. I'm going to create one more space in this video, but before I do that, I'm going to change a setting so that the report will be updated automatically. After clicking the first point, I select to key size so that I can enter dimensions from the keyboard. This also allows me to select an angle for the space, and I'm also selecting to anchor the space by the bottom left corner. The square displayed at the first insertion point indicates the angle and anchor point. I enter appropriate details for the space, and once I press OK, you'll see that not only is the space created, but the report is updated to include a new line for that space. The last thing that I want to show in this video is the Measure Detail option. Select this option and then click on a space to display detailed information about it, noting that the units used will be those specified for the clipboard. You can copy and paste from the dialog if you wish to use the measurements elsewhere. Once you dismiss the dialog, the dimensions of each side of the shape will be shown. Note that these are the dimensions of the polyline, and if it's been defined by wall centre, they won't be identical to the dimensions reported for the space. Simply click on other spaces to display their details. If you disable the Show Dialog option, then the dialog won't be displayed, but you can still copy data to the clipboard using the function keys. I'll end this video here. There are other functions I would like to show, and I may produce more videos in the future. I certainly intend to create a video to demonstrate the Excel import-export functionality in the relatively near future. Thank you for watching.